Hello everyone, this is Guido Pelagos with a new watch video. This is the video about the Citizen Signature Grand Touring Sport NB1031-53L. Typical Citizen name. You need half the alphabet to talk about it. So this watch I got straight from the US. I have it on my wrist. Let me show it to you. Gorgeous little watch. I keep saying little, but the watch isn't little. And I had to import it from the US because it's not available in Europe. I could buy it second hand for about 200 euros less, but then it was already damaged. The bezel was damaged and stuff, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. You can, however, repair Citizen watches from abroad. Here in Holland, I remember having let me show this one to you. The other Citizen I have, which is the Skyhawk with the added sapphire crystal. Now this watch also is only for the American market, but I got it repaired. I got two new bezels on there, and I had a sapphire crystal put in. So you can repair it locally, and they probably can order the parts of the American market here in Europe, but the watch itself is quite hard to find. Now back to the Grand Touring. The first time I saw this watch, I was really enthusiastic about the just about everything. The way it looks, the attention to detail, the polishings, the bezel, you know, and of course also the display case on the back. Just, you know, there's just been put some thought into it. And to first get it clear, these crown protectors, they got screws on the sides. You can't unscrew the crown protectors and take off the crown protector itself. Yeah, so if you take out the screws, it doesn't fall off. It's just to stabilize it or whatever. Because I thought at one moment if I could take that off, the watch would look like this. And, you know, maybe that's even nicer. But anyway, that's not possible. To set the watch, you open the crown protector, open it, do what you have to do, push it back in. Now, as far as I know, this doesn't have a manual wind, so you will have to wind it by wearing it, putting it on a winder, or what you normally can do is just do this. Look how easy that rotor goes. You only have to turn your wrist like once or twice and it will go spinning like mad. The blue itself is just, it's like a deep sea blue. I always tend to feel that it's a lighter blue on video than it is in reality. I'm looking over the camera now and I can clearly see a difference in the blueness. This is like blue, and what I see is like almost purple blue. I'm filming this not in the sun to give you a bit of an idea. As you can see here above the eye, it's like the dot on the eye. There's this little white speck. That is actually on the dial itself. And I thought, what do I do with this? What is it? You know, if is it damaged? Is it what, glass or whatever? Do I have to tell it? Do I have to ask for a discount or whatever? And luckily I got a stereoscope. So I had a look through the stereoscope, and it's actually some kind of piece of plastic. Very small piece of plastic which stuck on the dial, so it's not a damage on the dial. It's not something, it's not like a dent in the dial or something. It's just some speck of plastic dust or whatever it is that's stuck on the dial. So that doesn't bother me that much. If I ever get it serviced, I'll get it removed. It won't hurt the watch, so, you know. And if that's the reason why I got this watch like $300 cheaper than retail, or $400 cheaper than retail, that's okay. I still had to pay some import tax though on the watch, so I normally wouldn't have done this, but you know, I had to do it now. Is that a scratch? What is that? Let me just take the... That's one thing I'm a bit surprised of on this watch, is that the bezel, yeah, look, you can see scratch already. There you are. The bezel scratches. I've seen different people who had this watch, and you know, you bump it into something and the inner bezel is just stainless steel, so that scratches. The outer bezel is also stainless steel, so that scratches as well. I guess that's okay for a dive watch, but I'm trying to keep this kind of minty because I really enjoy the way it looks, and I don't want to have marks all over the bezel and stuff. But eventually it probably will get these scratches. Like I said, I've been wearing it for a few weeks and there's already a scratch here. That's okay, you know, it's a dive watch. It should take some beating. I wouldn't like it when, for example, the blue scratches or the numbers fade or whatever. I think that's less preferable. The bracelet, made in China, by the way, is a really nicely polished bracelet. I shouldn't have worked in the garden this morning. Anyway, really nice bracelet. This part of the bracelet is a bit crude. You could, if you do it with your nails, it just feels like it's gonna shave your nails. The clasp. Oh, let me just. Sorry. Clasp is absolutely fine. It's a bit of a strange clasp in my opinion. It's a little bit Chinese, Japanese, I don't know why, but it just looks a little bit like that. It's a bit off compared to the rest of the bracelet. It does not have a real diver's extension, so in that case I wonder a little bit how they made it a dive watch, because you know, if you have to put it over a diver's suit, you have to put in an extra link, or yeah, so it's a bit weird. Or when you go, it says 300 meters. If you take this down 200 meters, of course your body will expand and it will be very tight around the wrist. But since we're not going to do that anyway, and I think maybe one person who bought this watch will actually take it diving to that kind of depth, they will know what they'd be doing. Great thing about the bracelet though is they got whole links and half links. As you can see, this is a half link, this is a whole link. So you can actually tune it down pretty well. You can make sure that you have the right size, because I said in another video what often happens with these kinds of watches, because they're quite big. This is like almost 34 millimeters. You know, the problem is that with a big chunky stainless steel watch with a big chunky bracelet, that tends to dance around on your wrists. You know, if I put it on my wrist like this, you know, I have been able to manage it that it sits nicely on the wrist without biting into the wrist, but still, you know, it can dance a little bit back and forth, and especially when the watch is a bit heavier, it can actually start dancing back and forth on your wrist. It's just the way it is. That's why I got a, let me show you this. Let me take out the box. Showed you, it comes in a box with a nice little wallet containing everything about the watch. Really nicely done. Probably because it's the signature series, and also the case. The case itself. You open it. Now I have in this case, I have another. These are these spare parts. So I took out three hole links, and I got this one from AliExpress. I might just put the other video together with this one at the end so you can see the difference. And I think if you look at it like this, you know, that also looks quite good as a replacement for the bracelet. The great thing about a strap like this, it's a big thick strap. And the good thing about that is that it's actually a leather strap fits better on the wrist, in my opinion, with a big watch than a bracelet does. Simply because it sticks to the skin a little bit better, and you will have less chance of it dancing around or biting into your wrist. But like I said also in the other video, when you got a watch with a bracelet like this, the bracelet keeps on screaming for the watch and vice versa. So at the end, it always comes back to the bracelet. Happened the same with the Tudor, which is still in repairs, and even with a GS. You know, I've had that on an 8.0, I had that on a leather strap, but in the end, the GS also comes back on the bracelet. Anything else I want to tell you? Well, It's actually quite easy to take the lugs off and put a strap on. That's good because with the Tudor it's often hell, and the GS is very easy because the GS has drilled through lugs. It's keeping very good time. In the first 2 days it was like 7 or 8 seconds off a day. I think it was slow. Now it's 3 seconds fast a day, and that's more or less what it keeps saying, 3-4 seconds fast a day. So it's more or less cask. It's running cask more or less. Now the bezel. Yeah, the bezel is quite interesting. It's a typical Citizen sturdy bezel. It's strong. It's robust. The click is quite good, but yeah. Don't tell anyone, but it reminds me a little bit of an ice watch. I didn't say that. So the bezel is great, but it feels a little bit cheap. It's sturdy enough, but if you compare it, well, fortunately I got the GS with me today, and if you hear this bezel, just takes a little bit more effort, and it's just, and then you have this, and it's just more like, you know, it's more clunky. But I bet this bezel is ever so strong as the other one is. It's just something, it's a 60 click bezel instead of 120. So what else can I say about this watch that hasn't been said yet? Because you can see CG, and I think his name was Jeffrey McMahon. He also had this this watch. He sold it twice. I love this watch. It's I've been wearing it like I said almost daily. I really like the orange minute hand. The loom is quite nice. The loom is on the hour hands, the seconds hand, the faux pearl, and the not the side, but the end of the indices are loomed. It's okay, you know. It's not a Pelagos loom, but that's fine. And it's a flat sapphire crystal, which I actually really like. I don't really enjoy round crystals. It's got a very nice date aperture, which is cut in a little bit into the dial. And if you look from the first minute till the 14th, 15th minute, you can see that those parts are red. It's like a diver's countdown. And the rest is white. These are all underneath. The white spots you see as seconds, they are under, as you can see maybe better like this, they're under the dial. So it's got some kind of a 3D kind of a look, which I really enjoy. Right guys, if you got any questions, just put it in the comments below and I'll try to answer everything. One thing about the movement though, if you can see it here. Funny thing about the movement, it's a 90-12, so it's not the standard 90-15. As far as I know, the only difference is that this one is a little bit decorated, and the rotor is a rotor they only use for the Signature series. So the rotor makes it a different caliber than the other ones. And they only use this movement for the Signature series. And like I said, the only difference with the other movements is probably the rotor. So anyway, it's fine. You know, it's a nice little detail. What I really like about this watch as well, you know, I could have gotten a Breitling or whatever, but like I said, the Tudor has an ETA in it. I will make a video about these 3 dive watches once I got them all together. That's going to be an interesting video because you got 3 different styles of making watch divers. And so I just lost my train of thought here. Let me think. Oh yeah. So the Tudor ETA has, like I said, has the ETA movement in it, the Pelagos, so that can be serviced almost anywhere, which saves you a lot of money for not having to go back to Switzerland or the official dealer. The GS only has to be serviced once every 50 years, apart from a battery change every 3 to 4 years. And this watch, being a Miyota 90-12, I think this also will run for 10-12 years at least without any issues. And when you have to service it, then you can service it rather cheaply as well. So you got 3 great dive watches with not too high of a service cost. Because I'll talk about it when the tutor comes back. When I had to tutor in repairs, they told me they wanted to refinish and polish the bracelet and everything, and the lugs, and they said they had to send it to Switzerland to be polished. So that gives you an idea what kind of money that would be. That would be maybe like a third of the price I paid for the original watch. So I told them no, the Tudor is my beater. Well, and it has the scratches. That's fine. That's why I want to keep this more or less nice. And of course the GS I want to keep very mint, because the GS is almost not available anymore. It's taken out of relation. It's got the new logo now, and the quartz ones are not being made anymore. And if you go to Chrono 24, you'd be lucky if you find one somewhere in the world to buy. And like this, if you have to buy stuff from the US, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So a lot of people are bashing the European Union, but if you live in the European Union mainland and you like to buy watches and stuff like Chrono 24, it's a bliss that I can buy a watch in Italy for $4,000 and don't pay a dime in tax. You know, if I buy a watch in America that costs me like something like $800, I have to pay 150 euros in tax. So, you know, the best, take the good with the bad. Alright, that's more or less what I wanted to talk about this watch. It's a great watch. I love wearing it. It's a big clunky watch, but it's got a lot of looks, and it's really a joy to wear and look at. And I know it's going to serve me for years and decades to come. Okay guys, hope you liked this video, and ciao di bye. Oh yeah guys, and one more thing, I hear people talking all the time about the crown guards looking like a Panerai or a Ploprof Omega. Honestly, I think that's a little bit silly. Now why do I think that? Well, you know, it's like saying like, oh, it looks like a Submariner because it's got a bezel with numbers on it. You know, this is the way they decided to make the crown guard, that it has something of a Ploprof or a Panerai. You know, if they can't really even agree on that, what's the use of saying it looks like something that has been put on many different watches? So just look at it as the crown guards for the Citizen. And if you want to call it a Ploprof, or if you want to call it a Panerai crown guards, that's fine. But it's just a bit strange to say that, since it's a dive watch, and there's so many things about dive watches that have been done before. It doesn't really make sense to call it the one or the other.